the guides and the beings that I was seeing when I was a child, they used to tell me, you have to remember all this because you told us that we have to help you to remember this time. So it was like, we are a team, they said, and you decided in this time to do this. So in many different moments of your life, when you are out of this and you don't remember this, we are going to come back to remind you that you have to do this because you told us so. So I never took them like spiritual masters, but as a team. So this is my part, they have another part, and we are a team in all of this. So for me, every time that I was chaotic, that I had no idea what was happening, they would come again and said, remember this, be aware of that. And sometimes when I ask why this is happening to me, they said, this is not the moment for you to know this answer. You just have to go through the emotion. And I felt it very interesting during my whole teenagehood that they said you have to feel the emotion, not understand it. You will understand it eventually, but without the emotion, you are not going to be able to understand it. And so because I was saying, like, why do I have to suffer? Like, imagine I was 12 years old and I remember how it was to be a grandmother. You know, so it's like, so it was very chaotic, like being a grandmother, a warrior in Korea, I don't know, a bird in Africa. Like it was very confusing because I was also remembering things that are very traumatic. Like it was not like, oh, I was a princess in a country in Atlantis. No, I also remember being a child and being raped in Rome, in a not even in the capital, like in a random village. So, and there are many memories that I don't usually share because they have no point, let's say, in my mission today. But as a child, to remember many of the things that I started to remember, like living these wars and traumas and everything. So I was asking all the time, why do I have to live all this? Why do I have to suffer all this? And my guides used to say, there's no memory without emotion. So in order for you to see the sphere, you have to feel the emotion of every point of view. So otherwise you cannot weave the memory. So it was tough, but after every deep and terrible emotion and life that I was remembering or dimension that I was remembering, then something clicked, like, and it was like, oh, this is because of this, and this makes sense with that. So as I was growing up, I was able to kind of share the map, and it was a map that was evolving according to how I was remembering the emotions of it. So sometimes I used to say I didn't remember the knowledge of Atlantis when I was 12 years old, but I remember my husband, my children. I remember my fights with my sister. I remember the loss of my dad. I don't know, like eating a fruit from a tree while we were laughing with friends. Those were the things that I actually remember. And so because of that, because of me talking with someone that I loved in that life, or laughing or crying or all the things, the language was coming, the images of the knowledge was coming, the culture was coming. So I downloaded the packages of information because of the emotions. And that took me years. Yeah.
So many questions. One of the points I will remark upon is I find that as a life coach myself, one of the interesting things is there's a fundamental wisdom that you shared in there, which is you were told not to question too much, but just to experience the emotion. Because I find in like generally people that are more aware, when they're going through something, they're like, why did I create this? Why have I manifested this? What's going on for me? Was it me, or is it just the universe? Or like, is it me or is it them? You know, and I oftentimes find myself just going, hey, you're going through it right now. Just take a beat. The time to reflect on it will come, but don't reflect as you're going, because it's a double-edged sword doing that right now. Like, you're just making it that much harder to actually navigate the journey that you're going through. Now's not like take stock after. Which is easier said than done at times, because if, you know, psychoanalyzing your process is a safe space for a lot of people that are on the spiritual enlightenment path, then, you know, it can be quite challenging. You mentioned a mission. What is your mission now? How would you define your mission? I'd love to hear it from you directly.
Well, of course, my mission is to remember. And remembering for me at the beginning was like, okay, I have to remember my past lives. And that's why people usually know me about. It's like, oh, the guy that remembers his past lives. And but then there was a moment that I started to remember things that were not in the past, but things that were in the future, or things that are in other dimensions. And so it's like, I'm not remembering past lives. And and eventually I understood that they were not even my own past lives. It was just packages of information of people that in other dimensions, they are still living that. And so I understood the other level of what remember means, which is to put the members together. And the concept of remembering is to create links in between things that are separate through time and space. So, or concepts also. So from being the one that remembered past lives, I started to be the one that remembers the pieces. And there's so one of the slides of the mission is remember everything that you have lived and experienced. The next level of my mission is remember the pieces of everything that is in time and space. And the third one is to remember them all to the center, which is a word that comes from Latin, which, for example, remember in Spanish is recordar, which in English created the word record, to record something. Okay, but for us is to remember. It's the same etymology, the same word, but to remember or to record. And the actual word record or recordar comes from Latin to come back to the heart. Recordis. So cordis means heart. So come back. So again. So record is go back to the heart, which means that from the Latin point of view, when you remember something, it's because you bring it back here. So that's why we used to say, like, okay, I remember this. Like, I record this. It's recorded in me. So it means to go back to the heart. And so for me, those are kind of the three levels of my mission in this life. Help people remember, help people connect the pieces that has been separated, and put them all in harmony with the center. So that can be many things, of course, but that's what summarizes everything that I do.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. One of the, I guess I've got to ask you the question, what's the earliest memory that you remember from way back when?
Well, not alive, but one of my earliest memories is to be a photon or an electron. I used to say that my happiest memory of all is to be an electron. Yes.
What?
That's the happiest memory that I have.
Hey there, Inspired Evolutionary. If you absolutely loved this, well then here's a full conversation with this guest on the Inspired Evolution podcast. Check it out now.